She always would.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started here. I'm gonna thank everybody for coming tonight and those viewing online. Welcome to Columbia Beach Town Council regular meeting. Today is, the date isn't it right? May 17th, 2023 at 6 p.m. We're gonna start the meeting. First, I ask you to rise for a moment of silence and it will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our roll call of members, all members are present. You're here. Additions to the agenda. I don't have any formal additions, but under referrals to the planning commission, there are 2 appointments, which we could approve tonight, or we can wait for the work session, but I just want to remind myself and everybody else will address that under that line item. Are there any other things? Okay, can we approve the agenda as written then? Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Approval of the consent agenda. Our consent agenda has several series of minutes and a budget amendment for an justice assistance grant and the SRO grant for the police department. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Here. August 17th, September 7th were not sent.
Oh, I thought you said there were 5. Okay, so May 3rd, September 21st, and September 27th.
Those were all sent.
Okay, we'll hold off on the other 2 for the next meeting. All right, is there a motion to that effect then?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
So we're scratching out this August 17th and September 7th?
Correct.
Only comment I had was the September 27th work session. I personally like to see a little bit more detail since we referenced those strategic planning meetings quite frequently and the impact and influence they have on direction for town manager. I personally like to see a little bit more detail in those. But other than that, I don't have any questions.
Okay, anything else? All right, all in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Karen, yeah, you move your mic in. Got it. Okay. Council member announcements, lots of announcements, I think. It's been a busy week. We'll start on this side, with Mr. Wood.
It has been a busy week, but it's kind of short and sweet this week. First of all, I wanted to say that I neglected to mention that the Eagles had a tremendously successful fundraiser for St. Jude's. I think it was over $6,000, and I apologize for not mentioning that at the last meeting, but outstanding work from them. Public Works and other town staff had an informational session for business owners affected by the Central Drainage Area Project at the Kobe meeting space yesterday. A lot of different things were discussed there, some great questions answered, and kudos to you and your staff on that. The water crew's been working on new installs and several water leak reports, and the solar lights are halfway done for the bike path. For somebody who uses that often, it's nice not having to worry about Ichabod Crane coming out of the woods. It's outstanding. I know I live in a small town, but yes, I went to go look at the solar lights last night at 9 o'clock. So that's real progress. You know, we're improving by leaps and bounds. And I will say this, that since we've had Ms. Byers' leadership in Public Works, things have really, really gone well. And I personally, as a town member, couldn't be more pleased. That's all I have, man.
Thank you. Mr. Wood?
Okay, yeah, just a few things for the Economic Development Committee. I attended their meeting virtually, actually, on my drive home from Winchester, Virginia, so I didn't hear quite clearly because sometimes those team meetings don't work the greatest via phone. But I did some of the stuff I picked up, and I'll catch anything I missed in the next meeting. But they discussed the concerns over the construction in the boardwalk. I know they've had a few conversations about that, which Rick just mentioned that they were having a meeting, so hopefully a lot of those questions got answered. Food truck court, they were talking about the one that's over there next to the Orchid Thai, or potentially. There were some concerns, some red tape, some issues. They said something about the water connection fee potentially being $30,000 and that being a deal breaker from them even going in. So I don't know if that's something council needs to discuss at some point, but it was something they brought up. Let's see, and they also had an update from the Vicky Luna and the Planning Commission, and they discussed the subdivision ordinance, which they got into some, a little bit of back and forth on that, talking about the impacts, and even mentioned proffers, which or most of us know that proffers aren't necessarily allowed anymore, but developers can offer things up. So that was something they discussed. They discussed the short-term rental and the committee that's been formed on that. And so they talked about that some, and also the appointments that the mayor mentioned earlier, potentially the new members being introduced. Let's see, the Heart and Soul, they talked about that, and the seed grant money. I think they said something about $10,000 potentially to start that project up. And then they also had some discussion on the chamber and potentially the future of that and their role there. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Robertson?
I too attended the Kobe opening and found that very,
Just move it closer.
okay, is that better?
Yeah, we can see you now.
No, you can't see me, you did before.
I got it.
Okay, I too went to the Kobe opening yesterday. It was really nice to see
So many people there in attendance and talking about something exciting. I did not get the opportunity to meet with the school superintendent because they had a drill last week. So, and I have not been able to get with him at this point. But I can tell you that kindergarten on May 18th will graduate. at 9 o'clock. Seventh grade will do that same day, May 18th at 6 o'clock. This one is in the gym. I guess the middle one's in too, though. Oh, yeah, I think so. And then I'm going to go to the upper levels. I have had the most opportunity, sometimes it's been an adventure. I'm on the RCC Board of Directors, and we had, in Glen, there's two campuses. There's one in Warsaw, and we have students who go there. And then there's one in Glens, and the other schools in the lower end go there. And we had graduation last week, and to see those seniors ready to embark, it's the same thing you see here too. It's just a great time to be around young kids. They're anxious, but they're so ready to get into the world. And did I say our high school graduation is the 20th, but sorry, the 20th. So, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sullivan?
Thank you. The Planning Commission continues to be very active and very busy. There have been 2 vacancies on the Planning Commission for a while, and at their meeting last week, they have recommended to us to appoint 2 people, which we will get to later on our agenda. They just wanted to reemphasize that they really appreciated all of the applications and that all of the applicants were qualified, but they decided to go with what the committee found to be the most qualified for the job. Let's see. They have been working on the short-term housing ordinance, and their next meeting, they have formed a committee. So the committee includes 2 members of the Planning Commission, 2 members of the general public, and 2 members of the Economic Development Committee. And their next meeting is May 25th. Is that going to be open to the public, Dawn? Do you know, or is?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Dawn.
Yes, ma'am, it's, I think this is on. I'll speak loud. Yes, ma'am, it's open to the public. It's, we notice it just for the public's reference. It's at the Kobe Workspaces, 100 Hawthorne in Colonial Beach at 4:30.
4:30 on the 25th of
Yes, ma'am.
May. And the Housing Authority continues to work on their strategic plan, and there's nothing from the zoning, I always forget the name of it because I've never had to do anything with it.
BZA, the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Board of Zoning Appeals, yeah, I have nothing from them, except that there may be a vacancy, is that true? Do you know? 2 vacancies.
There are 2 vacancies currently
Yes.
that we're advertising for, yes.
So if there's anyone that would be interested in serving on the Board of Zoning Appeals, then please get in touch with the planning office.
Yes.
Thank you.
I will defer to our presentation coming up.
Okay, got it. Mr. House?
So for Parks and Rec, you'll see some boards that are in our vicinity. Back in the back here, Barry Dunn came and made a public presentation on Monday about park scenarios. There's 3 of them listed to give some ideas from the survey that was completed previously. These are not finalized, these are just scenarios. So you can still provide information to our Parks and Rec Advisory Commission so they can pass that along as well. Also Sally Adams is in contact with Barry Dunn, and they will continue to reach out to us throughout this process to continue this development, not only for Eleanor Park, but also for the master plan. Okay. Also, Parks and Rec sponsors a monthly fancy coffee walk. That's on the second Fridays of each month. Walkers are to meet at Buzz, is that right? Flamingo Buzz. Anytime after 8 a.m., they walk down through the boardwalk and down through Julie's Coffee Hut, to Julie's to get a medal.
Yes.
So please attend that. Also working on a initiative for a town-wide yard sale, which a date will be determined at a later point. Right now it's in its infancy. So basically, we would have a designated day for the town to host their yard sale in their yard, and it'll be a community-wide thing. So we could get potential outside visitors that wouldn't normally come here. You know, there's a very large market for yard sales, not only for Virginia, but Maryland as well. I've seen several of those through Bowling Green and other areas that get a lot of foot traffic, which that also could help our downtown area, our restaurants and other businesses. That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, I have a lot of updates too, so stay awake back there. I am recording a show for the radio station, WWER, questions for the mayor. If you have any questions for the mayor, please submit them on the website, wwer.org, I think. Also, I just want to thank the Public Works and all the sponsors for the veterans banners that are up on the boardwalk. They are honoring both deceased and living members in our community that have served. And I'm very proud of each and every person that's honored there. They were sponsored by their family or loved ones in our community, and they will be appreciated and commemorated at the Memorial Day service at the Cannon, which is on the Monday, Memorial Day weekend. That service starts at 11. If you don't know where the Cannon is, on Irving Avenue right here at the end of Boundary Street. Also, the town did Conrail, which is a community organizational relations meeting with the military at the Ice House this year. It was a great success. A lot of people were really excited to have been to the Ice House for the first time ever, because this group does bring in a lot of military installation leaders and other supportive members from even the Indian Head region and across the bridge into our community for this strategic, meeting and update. And the town was featured with an update during that time. This morning, I attended the S2 SWOT analysis along with the vice mayor and our town manager, which is also on base at Dahlgren, and included the Virginia side of regional leaders that helps influence legislation in Richmond to advocate in the federal. So we went over some of our opportunities and threats of this area and how our community is affected by the base, and how we also support the base, and hopefully how some of that military funding can be funneled into our community. It is really astounding the amount of military funding that does come to the Commonwealth of Virginia. It is much greater than most states, and so that partnership is very important. I mentioned the Memorial Day ceremony. There's a foundation meetup at the Baptist Church. I'll give you a shout out. Supervisor Tribbett is the keynote speaker at that, along with apparently my mom. He was a deacon at the church, and I really invite everybody in the community to come out to the foundation meetup tomorrow. I will not be there because I will be the speaker at the 7th grade graduation at the elementary school. And to also remind people that after Memorial Day weekend, the following weekend after that, but before we have our next meeting, is Save the Bay Day. And it's a community cleanup. It's on the Saturday first Saturday in June. It is in coordination with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, and it is all part of a very long-standing tradition with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation to clean up our waterways, shorelines. And we do encourage kayakers, but also people walking. And you can meet at the marina at the end of the point, Colonial Beach Yacht Center between 8:30 and 10, and it goes until noon, and you're provided lunch and gloves and trash bags and all of those things. Appreciate anybody that helps with that community cleanup. And then lastly, I want to talk a little bit about our June meetings. We have a few members of council that may be out of town for the regular meeting in June, and so I was looking to see if it was there was a consensus to for our staff to be able to schedule, if we could just condense both the work session and the regular meeting in June to the work session date. Is there any opposition to that concept?
I think it's a good idea. If everyone can't be here, then let's go ahead and consolidate it with everyone.
Yeah, Mr. Monkey?
And I unfortunately will be in Seattle, so that's a good idea.
Okay.
Oh, what time's gonna be on? I changed my mind.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to,
My only question would be to staff, is there anything that's timely in nature that can't get done by the 7th, that needs to be done before July 1st? That would be my only question.
I don't believe so at this time. I think that we can work to get everything addressed by that work session meeting.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I do believe there could be a potential for a cup during June, but we could schedule that along with the regular planning commission meeting if a quorum of us would be available that day, if indeed the cup comes up. That would be June 13th. It's a Tuesday. Well, you already go to the meeting, so I know you could go. If we needed to do a cup on the 13th, it would be a short. It would just be for that one thing. Would that be something that people would be available? Okay, all right. Okay, so it looks like I got a consensus for the June meetings. We're just going to condense June to the one work session meeting. We'll do all business in June on that meeting. And if the cup is scheduled on that work, on the planning commission meeting side as a joint meeting, then we'll work through that.
Since we published a schedule and adopted it, can we get something formally, a formal notice out to the public and on our website?
Yeah, that's why I want to discuss it too in public at this meeting too, so everyone.
Yeah, but
Yes.
not everybody watches this.
No, I know. I think that was Siri talking us back.
There's not an issue with us having a meeting on the federal holiday.
Is there a federal holiday?
Juneteenth, right?
No,
The 13th is.
Juneteenth is the 19th.
Okay.
That's the holiday.
Okay, I'm sorry, okay. Never mind.
Okay. All right, so how will you get notice out about the June?
The work session.
Yeah, that the June work session is the one meeting date in June.
Right.
All business work
All
session.
7.
Correct.
Okay.
That's a good point. Yeah, bless you, whoever is in the
Thank you.
audience. Okay. All right, that's all I got then. Town manager update.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members of the public, India Jacobs, Town Manager. First, I'd like to just recognize our staff. Last week was Public Service Recognition Week. So kudos to all of our staff for all the hard work they've been doing over this year. And as we move into the season, a lot of hardworking public servants throughout all of our departments, and just wanted to recognize their service. Many of whom go above and beyond the call of duty, day in and day out. No specific job descriptions for many of us. We pick up, we wear many hats, and we often do it with a smile. So I just want to recognize all of our public service members last week. And then this week is Public Works Week. So also special shout out to Public Works, who often do some of the toughest jobs in town. So kudos to Public Works and all of our public servants.
In the packet, in the agenda packet, you will see the monthly update, which includes updates on the central drainage area project, our Parks and Recreation Master Plans, both of which have been touched on today, as well as our stormwater resiliency plan efforts, signage, our quarterly newsletter, job openings, and our strategic action plan. I will not belabor the point that's there. Folks can take a look at that. I do want us to focus and transition to our central drainage area project update, which Ms. Byer and I will transition into now, and then we'll have specific updates as it relates to First Street addressing and facility enforcement. So I will turn it over to Ms. Byer to start with the central drainage area project update, which is a culmination of our frequently asked questions as well as the much awaited construction timeline. So, Ms. Byer.
Okay, next slide. Can you hear me? Am I working?
Are you on? Turn it up.
How about now? There we go. Okay, what is this project? You'll see some bullets there, and I won't belabor this by reading them to you, but basically what the central drainage area project is, the town has old infrastructure in excess of 50 years old, and this project is timely in being able to replace and remove approximately 2,270 linear feet of sanitary gravity sewer, 370 feet of new sanitary sewer pipe, over 1,000 linear feet of new water lines. This will create a lot of new services as far as water pressure. It will upgrade the sewer capacity. We have old sewer lines in the area that we have had Dewberry, which we'll talk about in a little bit, assess as far as I&I. I&I is infiltration and inflow. And what happens with I&I is that the sewer pipes are either so old that they're cracked and stormwater is getting into those pipes and going through our wastewater treatment system, which is hard on the plant, not necessary on the plant, so we need to eliminate those issues. The areas could also have pipes that just were never sealed correctly based on the timeline and the age of the pipes. That's very probable. So we will be addressing those issues as well. So those are some of the things that the Central Drainage Area Project will be addressing. Next slide, please. Planning began in 2020, and the town has been planning, it was identified in 2020, and the town has been planning since 2021. Next slide. Why is it important? We kind of talked about that a little bit already. Aging infrastructure, infiltration and inflow. There comes regulatory penalty with the infiltration and inflow if it's identified and we don't fix it. DEQ is going to look at us pretty hard. And again, we have had issues with sewage coming out of manholes at particular times. That will be eliminated throughout this process. Next slide. The project is funded through ARPA funding, which is American Rescue Plan Act federal funding. This came about through the series of pandemic rescue fund operations that Congress approved. And it's I think it's a very advantageous program for us to have here in Colonial Beach, in that we can address these infrastructure issues. It is a $2.5 million process, this particular project, and the ARPA money will allow the town to do a project that probably the town would not have been allowed to do or able to do in other times. During peak season, the project's going to take about 9 months, so we're going to hit someone's season somewhere. So unfortunately, we are having to begin in June. It's just the way the procurement process worked out. They noticed to proceed, the contractor, all the things with the contractor that came together. It just
came to be that we're starting on June 1st. But it will be a 9-month project. Next slide. Again, we're starting on June 1st, shovels in the ground. And there are the phases. There are 5 phases listed there. We will be putting a map on the website and information on the website. It will be updated frequently so that everybody can see what's going on. We have not worked with this contractor before, so as we get comfortable with how he works, how his crews work, we'll be able to update this a little quicker and be able to tell you if we can stick to these timelines. Phase 1 is going to be Beach Terrace and Hawthorne Street near Taylor. You can see the list here. June and July that will begin. Phase 2, July and August, is work on Taylor on the sewer. Phase 3 is July and August, and that is Denison. Phase 4, August and September, will be on Washington Avenue, which is probably the longest phase. Phase 5 is September through the beginning of October, hopefully, and that'll be Colonial Avenue, and then that will also be the water work, which will be back in phases 1, 2, and 3. Next slide. There's the map that shows you the phases starting from the right of the map and then coming over here to Colonial Avenue, where you see the ending of the project. The timelines may change depending on material availability, weather. There will be stoppages for holidays. They will be working only during weekday hours, during the daylight. So we are going to work with them to plate or cover the areas so that parking and ingress and egress to the areas they're working in will be available during the most visible hours for tourists and business owners. Next slide, please. The area will be repaved at the conclusion of all 5 phases, weather permitting. So hopefully if we end the project on time in October, the weather needs to be 40 degrees or up for us to be able to pave the entire area. So if we have the weather at the end of phase 5, we will do that paving right then. If we don't and the project goes long, excuse me, we may have some gravel ditches through the winter. I'm hoping not, but worst case scenario, that may occur. India, do you want to jump in?
Sure, thank you. We've received some questions about will parking be impacted and where can folks park during construction. Weekday parking will be impacted in construction areas based on the timeline that we just showed. Options for parking and updates can be found on the town's website. Right on our landing page, you will see a home button that indicates beaches and parking. We will update that page as the project progresses. Weekend impact will be minimal. All town parking lots, Wilder Avenue, Hawthorne, and Castlewood, as well as on-street parking on Irving Avenue along the beachfront will be open and available, as well as street parking. Town parking lot information can also be located on the town's webpage, and we have parking brochures available at Town Hall. I believe the Chamber of Commerce also has some, and we'll distribute more as the season progresses. As it relates to business outreach and communications, we obviously know that this project that has been in planning for almost a couple of years now will have some impacts. There will be selected businesses located on Hawthorne Street and Beach Terrace that will be temporarily impacted with construction. The town will assist with temporary wayfinding signage. We've been also working with Public Works as well as our police department to plan appropriately for detours and road closures throughout the duration of this project. We also will have other communication tools to help support our businesses during this temporary work. Yesterday, myself and Ms. Byer and the chief met with many of those business owners in the affected area to talk at length about this and got some great feedback that we'll be looking to implement, including updates to our web pages, collective email back and forth as it relates to the project updates, as well as leveraging our code red system if there will be any impacts and outages as it relates to utilities during this time. So we obviously ask for folks to be patient as we're working through this, but we'll do as good as we can to continue communications with the business community, but as well as the public and our tourists throughout this project. As it relates to specific communication outreach, we mentioned that open house. We've continued with updates in our quarterly utility newsletter. We will be recording a radio interview tomorrow that will air on WWER. We mentioned that town dedicated webpage with project updates, which you will see a more interactive map that we are working with GIS on right now, as well as those code red updates, and we will continue to keep folks updated at future council meetings moving forward. What specific ways can we support this infrastructure project? Obviously, we as a community work together in the spirit of Columbia Beach with all of our Drifter Pride to be a champion and advocate and supporter as we celebrate these positive enhancements that will benefit the community as a whole. Obviously, we've talked about infrastructure being a top priority. Council identified that at our various strategic action planning meetings, and thankful for these federal funds that we have been allocated to be able to begin this project and complete it. As Ms. Byer mentioned, we've been working collaboratively with Dewberry, an engineering and construction firm, as well as Sagres Construction, who was awarded the project in early 2023. And finally, where can you learn more about the project? We will have a dedicated project page on this project, on the Central Drainage Area Project on our webpage, www.columbiabeachva.gov. And then if you have specific questions about the project, you can reach out to our Director of Public Works, Ms. Byer, and her number is there, and her email is also available on the town website. We'll answer any questions. Anyone has any questions? Yes, Dr. Soso?
For either you or Diane, my vision, and I'm sure everybody, depending on where you've lived and when you've seen this kind of work done, it probably varies as to what you're expecting to see. But from the meeting, I understand that it's really the center of the roads that are being dug up. It won't impact the sidewalks. You're not digging up the whole road in these areas. And that's where you need to dig in order to access the pipes. Could you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. We'll obviously have to dig where the old infrastructure is, and usually that is located either in the middle or to one side or to the other of the roadway. I am not aware of any of the area in the Central Drainage Area Project that impacts sidewalks. So pedestrian travel will not be impacted. If there's an impact at an intersection or in some of the intersections we're working in, pedestrian traffic will be considered, and there are traffic measures that the contractor has to put into place to protect pedestrian walkways across the roadways. So those have already been approved through the plan process. And hopefully we won't run into anything that requires us to dig up the whole road. If we run into some major problem, that's always something that we're not sure of that may happen at some point. But I'm hoping that enough work has been done. Dewberry's been pretty thorough in looking at where old infrastructure is located and so forth, that I'm fairly confident to say we won't be digging up any full roadways.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Byers, obviously, as you described earlier, we have a town full of ancient infrastructure. Why did we start here?
Again, Dewberry has done some assessments throughout town.
Mhm.
There are some areas that have been identified as infiltration and inflow hotspots. Basically, the area of the downtown was decided on because it was the biggest bang for the buck with the ARPA money. It's where our businesses are located. We do have other areas that are hotspots as well that we will hopefully be able to address some testing with additional ARPA monies, notably the Point, hopefully. But we wanted to get the biggest bang for the buck with the ARPA federal funding, so we started in the downtown corridor.
Gotcha. And one other question for you. The I&I issue, we recently had a couple of pumps go kablooey on us. Is part of the problem the fact that they're trying to filter too much because a large influx of what they have is water that shouldn't have to be treated at all, and that's part of what you can correct with this?
It's hard to say that that's causing the pump failures, and I have two sets of eyes boring into the side of my head right now. I can feel them. But I think most of that, Mr. Wood, is probably just because of the age and the experience of the number of hours on those pumps. But it could be a contributing factor.
Yes, Ms. Williams.
Yes, I've got a question. I noticed on that map, it looks like the construction stops around high tides. I was just curious because we got potentially, well, supposedly more development coming like between the beach shop and the bathrooms, and then potentially even further over into Wilder. Has that been taken into consideration, or was that already good infrastructure?
I would say that we have the same situations in those areas. This area was what we could handle in the 2.5, in the area of the funding. Those areas will need to be dealt with, but for right now, they're not as critically deteriorated as the area that we're looking at. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and just one more question, that the 5.7 million from DEQ ARPA money, is that allowed to be used for the infrastructure in that, what that was for specifically?
It is. So that will be what we have the application in at this time. We are waiting on the DEQ's final approval of our projects. We have submitted our projects to them as far as the infiltration and inflow on the point and some of the other areas that Dewberry has identified as hotspots. So hopefully, once we get the DEQ approval, we'll be able to engage in those testing procedures for those other areas.
Okay, is that something that could be made available to the public, just to see what we're potentially gonna be fixing next?
Oh, absolutely. Once we get the approval, I'm sure we'll be putting all that out. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I had a couple more questions. So the roads are gonna be open on the weekends?
Yes, ma'am. We have indicated to the contractor Sagres that they need to either backfill or plate ditches as they work through them, and that they need to be open, hopefully and preferably outside of working hours, whether that be evenings or weekends.
And so they'll be open at night and on weekends. And when you go to connect a sewer line or a water line to a building, how long is that building actually out of service?
The building will be out of service when the water lines are reinstalled for maybe a few hours. Hopefully, that will be the worst case scenario.
Okay. And the phasing will mean that just small sections are closed at a time. In no point in time are we expecting the entire section to be closed.
That is correct, yes.
And when will the website be live?
We are working with GIS on parts of the map. We hope by early next week.
That's all I have. Anything else? It was a really good meeting yesterday with all the businesses. Was that just yesterday? I feel like I've been to 100 meetings this week. Some really good questions, some really good suggestions, and a lot of not all, because I still think there's a few that we're gonna have to keep getting the word out to that I didn't see there, but most of the key people who have property in and around that area downtown were there, and so got to have firsthand, have questions, and I just thought, Brian from High Tides was a valuable asset in his understanding of these projects, and that brought a lot to the table and suggestions on that.
Madam Mayor, could I also just add an opportunity to plug our stormwater resiliency survey that is on our website under the town survey link. It's not directly related to this specific project, but we had great engagement with our Barry Dunn Parks and Master Plan at over 300 survey responses. The Eleanor Park engagement specifically at about 400. We are not at that number yet on our stormwater, but yet we receive a lot of feedback about flooding and stormwater in town. So if anyone is listening to this and you all could assist us with pushing that survey link to our town residents so that we can get as much feedback so that that data can inform that plan as well. Thank you.
Any other questions on this one? I think we have 2 more updates to go through.
We'll go ahead and transition to Mr. Dooley and the First Street address change overview briefly, as well as code enhancement updates.
Great, thank you. Madam Mayor, members of the council, staff recently received a request for 5 new addresses on First Street to accommodate 5 new single-family homes along the 300 block of First Street. That's located roughly between Euclid and McKinney, or Route 205. However, in looking at the address range for that block of the street, there was not, in the past, there was not a wide enough address range reserved to accommodate future development along that portion of First Street. Staff looked at options to potentially remedy the situation without having to change any of the existing addresses for single-family homes that are already on that street. Unfortunately, as difficult as this was, staff cannot find a solution other than to alter the addresses of 5 existing residents on the street in order to expand the address range to accommodate all the development anticipated along the 300 block, including the 5 new addresses that was requested on First Street. Staff did notify by certified mail those homes whose addresses are being changed. We can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. We did notify by certified mail those homeowners that they're affected of their address changes, as well as the county, the postmaster and emergency service providers, in order to try to facilitate as quickly and as painlessly as possible that address transition. It's one of those things that happens from time to time, but if there's not a sufficient address range to accommodate future development, there's little choice that we have in some cases. And this particular one, we had to make that address change happen to accommodate the future development. So that's what I have for the update. Do we have any questions on that?
Yes, Mr. Wood.
Mr. Dooley, a couple of folks who have businesses along that line have complained, and obviously none of us wants to have our address changed, but there are financial considerations that they have to deal with. One of the ideas is we want to make sure that we're welcoming to our new neighbors, and if new neighbors are the reasons we have to spend a whole lot of money, it doesn't start the relationship very well. Is there a way that we can find to lessen the economic impact for those who have to redo their signage, business listings, things of that nature? Have you run into the situation before, and have there been any mitigation strategies for that?
I know that there are some communities that do offer a small stipend for it. My understanding that we've not done that here in the past. It's something the council could consider doing. This is something that does not happen very often. The other thing that we can certainly offer is to try to expedite to the greatest extent possible changes, if need be, to any zoning permits that they might need to change an address. I don't really anticipate there being anything like that would occur to change out an address, but staff's certainly here to help support them and to try to transition those new addresses as quickly and as painlessly as possible.
Okay. Are there any other questions on the First Street?
Moving on to community enhancement update. So for the council's reference, for the current fiscal year 2022-23, there's been a total of 129 community enhancement investigation requests received since July 1st, 2022 to date. In progress, we still have 21 investigations, and those, of course, are coming more recently than in the past from 2022. And there's been 108 investigations that have been closed. So we're making pretty good progress in the amount of responses and follow-ups to community enhancement investigation requests. Next slide, please. To remind the council and to provide the community with a little bit of an understanding of what community enhancement process looks like. First, it starts with a complaint being received by the town. I will point out that we do have an online investigation request form under the community development platform on the town's website that somebody could go in and access. And those requests come directly to me and my staff to help facilitate requests and to respond to them in a timely manner. Residents can also get hard copies or download hard copies if they're feel more comfortable doing that as well. Staff will follow up on the complaint and if necessary, contact any complainant with any additional questions that we have if necessary. Research might be done to understand if there's any permits or history that needs to be understood to understand the context of the potential violation. Then staff will go out and inspect the property to determine if the alleged violations do exist and what section of the zoning code or codes are applicable to the violation request. If we find that no violation exists based on our inspection and research, then the investigation request will be dismissed. If it's a valid code enforcement issue, we will notify the property owner of the violation and identify of course, the violation, the remedies and timeframes to complete the follow-up. Typically, 10 days is given for violation notice that's sent to the property owner. However, in certain instances, we may extend that timeline beyond 10 days if it has economic impacts to the property owner that are adverse. Typically, what we would do is we would ask them to provide some milestone dates and do some incremental processing to make sure that we ultimately get voluntary compliance and to enable the property owner to work with staff in a collaborative manner. So we're not just coming down on them on a violation that may be expensive to remediate, but generally speaking, 10 days to resolve violations are done, and that includes weeds and debris on the property. As we continue to work with the property owner, the violation is typically resolved in one of three ways: either voluntarily by the property owner working with staff, or by an appeal to the BZA, or by court action, or the town for grass and junk could authorize a contractor to cut grass or weeds down to a typical lawn level, and they would be billed for that work on their property tax bill to be collected by the town at that time. That fundamentally completes the basic process. But what we really try to do at the bottom line is to encourage voluntary compliance, to work with the property owners to keep complainants apprised of the work that's being done if they choose to have their name and address revealed, so that we can follow up with them as well. Complainants can be anonymous, but they also have the ability to disclose their name and details. Of course, any violation request is foilable, including their name and person and address details if they choose to put that on there. But we try to provide complainants options so that they feel comfortable in what they're submitting to the town. And that completes my update on the community enhancement efforts.
I have one question. If somebody writes a blog post or a Facebook post or does a Snapchat or writes on Nextdoor, does that qualify to go through the complaint process?
No, ma'am. We have the online form. We need to have somebody fill that out or to fill out a hard copy and submit it to the town. That's what actually starts the process. And the reason it's important to document this is that if a violation ultimately goes to BZA or to the court, we have to show that there's a formal record that's been created, a request to follow up with that and the investigation. So, and that's a very normal process. Communities want that documentation up front. And as we don't proactively enforce, we reactively enforce. That provides documentation for anyone to see that we're following that council directive is to be reactive to enforcement.
I saw two hands at the same time. I'll go David first.
Yes, Mr. Dooley, just a question. Is there any sort of report that could be provided to council or even to the public for that matter, just to kind of see what's going on in town, what the primary complaints are and things like that?
We can certainly provide a generic overview of the typical complaints. I will tell you that weeds and debris, junk, vehicles being parked, large vehicles, motorhomes, that sort of thing, or broken down, unusable vehicles parked in the front yard. Those typically tend to be the most significant number of violation requests that we get, but it does run the gamut.
Thank you.
Mr. Wood?
Yes, sir. If I understand you correctly, the complainant, if they request it, is notified of whatever action was taken, whether it was dismissed or whether something else has happened. Did I understand that correctly?
That's correct. If they're given that option online and in the forum, so they can decide if they want that follow-up or not.
And let me trouble you for a bit of free advice here. I'm going to give you my job for a second. When a number of people come and complain about a particular property, okay, and obviously we never wanted to, the council can't put its thumb on the scale. But when multiple people complain, then there's obviously smoke there. What would you recommend that we share with the constituent so that their concerns are addressed properly without us interceding in some way?
I would probably want to start with the town manager and the town attorney to address that, or at least to start that conversation.
I think also to, again, chime in on the forum, the most efficient and effective way for a process to begin is to have it routed through that system. As Don, I think, has mentioned, we obviously are going through some staffing shortages that is kind of consistent in planning departments across the nation, unfortunately. As a small locality, that's rather hard. So this system allows this to be routed directly to the department and then addressed in an equitable manner. So we aren't chasing emails or one email over the other, that they are addressed in an equitable manner based on the time frame in which they came in. And then once that process begins, staff can follow up on it, and then if necessary, depending on if it needs to end up going to the BZA, it can be addressed in ensuring that folks have their appropriate due process.
Okay, and just to press a bit more, and of course, I have to go with what the people tell me that their word on it, right? These particular properties, I've had a number of people say that they've gone through the formal complaint process, assuming that they're telling us the truth. Is the lag because of staff shortage? Would that be?
Depending on the time in which they submitted, but if it's recent, more than likely, yes, we are addressing them as quickly as possible. We had a departure in that role as of last week. So we transitioned and actually pulled someone from another department to ensure that the position is filled so that there's not a complete vacancy in that role. However, they will take some time to get up to speed, and we're working as quickly as possible.
Mr. Williams?
I just wanted to say, I do appreciate that form, and actually I've forwarded that to several constituents recently, so I think it's a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, I second that for sure. It's much more streamlined. It was never very clear about how you made a complaint or who to complain to that started the process. And a lot of times I was just forwarding complaints that I got in my inbox to the town manager, the clerk, maybe the zoning administrator, maybe all three, maybe also including, public works, depending on what it was. And then it was like in every direction. And I think sometimes I was making it seem like, oh, well, I bet, Diana's handling it already, or I bet India's handling it already. And so I think this will really help with that. And I've seen some really good follow-up on things that I have, that citizens have come to me and asked for a follow-up on. And I've been getting very good feedback from them.
Mayor?
Yeah.
One recommendation I would have for everyone in town is, instead of complaining, we go ask our neighbor if they need help with their grass or pick up their trash or other things. Instead of just complaining, maybe they're having hardship, maybe they're bedridden, maybe they just need help. So rather than just complaining, let's go ask them if they need any help. That's all. Thanks.
It's a very good point. Okay, is there anything else? All right, we're moving right on down the line then. Planning Commission referrals. Somebody like to make a motion to appoint, we were, recommended Patricia Kurtz. I'm sure I.
Maybe Mr. Dooley could introduce
Sure.
that.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, at the last planning commission meeting, the commission voted to recommend to the council Mr. Bill Hutchins and Ms. Pat Patricia Kurtz to fill the two vacancies on the planning commission. And it's now before the council as the approval authority to make the determination to those recommendations. The council could accept the recommendations and appoint those two candidates. They could refer the applications back to the planning commission to reconsider any candidate, or the council could ask staff to continue to advertise for additional applications. So there's other options you have too, but the recommendation is to appoint those two candidates, Ms. Kurtz and Mr. Hutchins.
Madam Mayor, I make that motion.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion about it?
I think that we can all agree that our planning commission leadership has been outstanding. And one of the things that I've always done in my professional career is when you have outstanding people, you empower them and then hold them responsible. So I think planning commission leadership is earned. It's right to appoint those people that they think they can work well with. And I would look forward to working with them.
Hear you. Okay, yes, Mr. Williams.
Mr. Dooley, were those applications forwarded to council by any chance?
Yes.
They were.
But Heather forwarded them to us.
When did you do that?
Monday, or last Friday. Monday.
Okay, so I missed one, but I've had the opportunity to watch all the meetings, so I feel comfortable in what I've seen anyway, but I was just curious.
She forwarded all the applications, not just the two, all of them. All five. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? There you go.
Congratulations.
Yes. Now we have a full commission, is that right? I see the chair. That's, I'm looking at Mr. Dooley and the chair.
Yes, we do. Now we just got to get the BZA appointments.
One thing at a time, Mr. Dooley.
Mr. Dooley, have you thought to ask the other applicants that were on the planning commission to apply for that position for the BZA?
Yes, I've actually, there's the candidates that were not selected. I'm going to reach out to them to see if they're interested in that. There is, I know Mr. Hutchins applied for a BZA position, and I believe Mr. Schaefer has also applied for the BZA position too. So I'll reach out to the other candidates and encourage them to apply as well.
Excellent.
Madam Mayor, is the process the same? Does the Setting Board of Zoning Appeals make a recommendation, or does it just come to us?
I think it comes to us and it's court approved. Isn't a BZA have to be court approved?
Yes, ma'am, they have
Yeah,
to.
they have to be sworn by a judge.
Yes. But the council, I believe, and if you want to jump in, my understanding is that the council makes a recommendation and actually appoints them subject to them being sworn in by the circuit court judge.
And we have that being advertised now?
Yes, ma'am, it
Is
is.
there a deadline?
There's not been a deadline because until very recently, we have not received any applications. But I think that we've got a candidate pool that we can bring it to the BZA for their consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Stephen, did you have something?
Yes, ma'am. You had mentioned the consolidation of the regular meeting in June into the work session on June 7th. And I was looking at the code, and it's very similar to when we changed the time. I think it's going to require a resolution and posting and publication 7 days or more prior to the meeting.
Okay, so would you like us to make a motion so that there's a formal resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
I've been working on a resolution.
Are you ready?
I can read you what the motion should be.
Fantastic.
Someone should move to resolve that the date of the.
I move to
June-
resolve whatever you say next.
That the date of the June 2023 regular meeting shall be changed to and consolidated with the work session on June 7th, 2023 at 6:00 p.m. That would be the motion.
So moved.
Is that right?
I'm sorry.
With this ring ID with, second.
Mr. Dooley, the date for June would have been the 21st, I think, not the 23rd.
I'm sorry, I missed.
Yeah,
what-
23rd.
I said the June 2023.
Oh, sorry, okay, okay, sorry.
I had it as in the top of the resolution, I had it as June 21st.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, the motion's on the floor, it's been seconded, is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Excellent. All right. Yay. All right, anything else on the planning commission referral? I don't have anything else at the time, does anybody else? Okay, fantastic. And next, Officer Arrow, I'm sorry, Arrow. Yep, go ahead, please, Steve, you have the floor.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. This on? Is the light on? Turn the knob. Now we're on. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council, members of the community. I stand before you tonight to have the honor and opportunity to recognize some of the officers of Colonial Beach Police Department tonight, specifically Officer Barrow sitting to my left. You're recognizing him for his acts of bravery involving a vehicle accident into the water that occurred on April 7th of this year. A Jeep Wrangler went into the water near Wilkerson's restaurant and was submerged in the water on its side with the driver of the vehicle trapped inside of the vehicle. Officer Barrow went into the water to try at his best to assist the driver out of the vehicle before other public safety got there, and was unable to do so. Fire arrived and was able to extricate the driver out of the vehicle while Officer Barrow stayed in the water in close proximity to the driver and assisted both the driver and the fire department while they extricated her from the vehicle. Also, after the individual was out of the vehicle, he continued to stay on scene and help state police with the rest of the accident investigation and the removal of the vehicle from the waterways. So tonight, on behalf of the Colonial Beach Police Department and the entire town, I'd like to provide Officer Barrow with a citation for exceptional service or his bravery during the incident, ensuring the safety of all, to include the driver and all other citizens of the community that were in and around that area that evening.
Oh, I heard it was quite a panic scene, that you were a source of calm and in reassurance during the incident, and we thank you for that.
Okay. I knew there was a reason I stopped by here tonight. Okay, you're good. Since I have the microphone for a few more minutes, I would like to address two more items tonight. In today's Westmoreland News, there was a small article about the ongoing investigation of the shooting incident that occurred on 12th Street. And I just wanted to point out that the department, as well as several members of the department, have been continuously working on this event and have input hundreds of personnel hours in this investigation and submitted dozens of items to the State Crime Lab for further review in the investigation. And I would like to thank the community for their assistance in the investigation, as well as their understanding as we continue to go through this process to identify all the individuals potentially involved. And on the third item, the police department has been awarded 3 of our last 3 funding requests to DCJS for additional funds to the community to help public safety, and totaling over $260,000, to including the public safety share of ARPA funds that were made available earlier this year for law enforcement in the Commonwealth.
Fantastic, thank you very much.
Any questions from council?
I know you've been busy, and our fire department and our rescue squad too. And we really appreciate all of the service agencies. It seems like there's been an uptick with the weather, and we know summer's coming.
Yes, it is.
We really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, Mr. Trivett, Westmoreland County Board of Supervisors.
Madam Mayor, Town Council, good to see you. I wanted to mention that I too attended the Comrail meeting. I don't know if it'd be appropriate or not, but Captain Copeland has been an asset to that group of people. Just one of those people that's a captain that you don't expect him to be down on your level, no matter where you're at in life, but he's been an asset to this community. He's visited this community on numerous occasions when he wasn't at the base, and maybe it's something for you to consider. I know he did such a good job. He always brought humor to those meetings, and something maybe you could consider. Also want to thank you for the meeting yesterday to inform the businesses. It was very informative. Obviously, you're not going to get all positive comments from anybody in any meeting, but you did very well of holding your own, not getting upset about questions of things, because some of them you have no answers to, and some people, just don't get that. But thank you. And one thing I would encourage you to do as far as that goes, the more signage that you can get, and I know the chief spoke about barricades and stuff yesterday, I think will be better for the tourism, because tourists don't look at websites, most likely. So I would say if you can get additional signage, whatever it is to, lessen the anxiety on them when they visit our town. And no matter when you do it, you would have heard the same thing. It wouldn't matter if it was in December, there would have been people complaining. So thank you for that. We approved our budget at our last meeting for the 23-24 budget year. I've provided information to the town manager if you have any questions about that, she has information where those answers may be involved, that she can provide that. And if not, I'm more than glad to meet with anybody and discuss it one-on-one or however you prefer. Any questions?
Mr. Tripp, Tim,
Yes.
is the county budget available on their website now that it's been approved?
That's a great question, and I doubt it. I don't go to that website for nothing, and I'm just telling you the truth. I can't even get an electronic anything. So, and that's the truth. It
So
doesn't
we have
matter
a
whether
paper
it's,
copy of the budget?
well, you have something I'll put to you. That way you can see the town manager about it.
Could we,
It's public information, and if you want it, you can get it.
but you have to go down there and.
No, ma'am, you wasn't listening. You kind of was, but anyway, if you have any questions about the budget, see the town manager. She'll be able to help you with that, and I'll be more than glad to help you if I can. But believe me, if I don't ask questions from outside, sometimes myself, the auditor came a month or so ago, gave this presentation in about 5 minutes about this audit for the whole year. Didn't say where he was in the audit. It was like you didn't know anything. So and I asked him, what page are you on? And he seemed like he was shocked that I asked that. I think you were at that meeting.
I was at the meeting and I was kind of blown away because I know how long our auditors spend going through the audit. And I'm just so proud to be a member of this town and this council, even though our meetings are long, much longer than the county meetings. I think we're doing an outstanding job of sharing every bit of information that we have with our public and getting it on our website. So I'm sorry, it's not, I was really hoping you'd say yes, but.
Well, I spent probably an hour and a half with the auditor after that meeting on Monday. And it was very informative to be able to go through page by page, a 200-page document, and when you see the budget from the county, it's not something you can talk about in 10 minutes. And even when you have a budget session, and it's just not enough. You don't get enough information. So, but the information is there. It's public. You can ask questions. If I can answer them, I'll answer them. It's there. So, but I don't have it electronic. Like I said, I don't even get anything that I get from the county. Nothing comes electronic. And I can ask for it, including the audit report. I had to call the auditor and ask him to send me an electronic copy of it. So, it's just how it is. But changes are coming. I'm quite sure of that within the next year or so. And hopefully that'll benefit our town. So I'm glad to stand here and say that anyway, because I think it will. We've had a great relationship. And I can assure you that anything that I know, I'm sharing with you. I might not share with you directly unless you ask me, but I keep the mayor informed. I keep the town manager informed of things that I think are important that they need to know about that's going on at the county level. And they know they can call me anytime. And if I know it, they're going to know it. It's just how it is, and nobody's going to stop me from sharing that information.
And we appreciate your representation.
Thank you. Is there any questions about anything? Thank you. Good seeing you.
Thank you. Dr. Mitchell, is he here tonight?
Not one person. I
Huh?
don't see anybody from.
I didn't see anybody from the
Oh,
school.
tonight's the thing.
The baccalaureate.
So that's where everybody.
No,
Baccalaureate, that was last week.
that was last week.
There is a sports banquet
Sports, that's what it is.
tonight,
Yeah. Award ceremony.
award ceremony.
For the seniors? Okay, not for.
She's like, I got kids in school. Where are my kids at? Okay, all right, well, Vicki gave us updates on when all the graduations were, and so it's probably, yes, tomorrow and Saturday. Yeah. All right, I'll move it right along then with public comment.
I have Robert Snyder signed up, and that is.
Welcome, Mr. Snyder. You have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record for us as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
is it on?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, I'm not,
Oh, no, it's not. I apologize.
gracias.
There you go.
Didn't have that.
Okay, my name is Robert Snyder. Most people know me as Bob. And I'm here tonight to address an issue with the police department. I'm 5 months from 80 years old. I'm a one-armed person right now. I've had this cast on for 5 months. My wife is 76. We're retired, we're elderly, and we were brutally interrupted from talking and watching a TV show March 25th. I'm not going to go into any details about it, but I just want to say about what happened after the police showed up on the scene. They all had body cams, I understand, and the report was supposed to be coming in. 2 weeks went by, 4 weeks went by, 6 weeks went by. I kept trying to get an audience with the head person over there, and the chief would not see me, not call me back. And after about 6 weeks, I found out that there was a report made, okay? So I go into the station again, and I pay my $8 to get a copy of it. And there was on the scene 4 witnesses. There was a drive-by who called the 911 because he seen something was going on, but he didn't. He just kept on going. And there was 3 other witnesses that knew everything that was going on and heard everything that was going on. The man kept saying he was a cop. And so finally, the other 2 officers came and was taking our statements from the 3 witnesses that I call the star witnesses because they saw and heard everything. And I heard what the officers were writing down, what the people told them, and I gave them my story. And then about 2 weeks later, I kept calling to try to get a copy of the report. And okay, here it is, it's here. And so I go in and pick it up and pay my $8, and I get home and read it. And the only witness statement was in this report was we sent this to the Commonwealth attorney, and he's not gonna press charges or anything. Well, they only had the 911 statement from the person. All of the other 3 witnesses, there was nothing in that report that stated anything about them, anything that went on, and that to me was kind of a slap in the face. I've served this town and area for 35 years. I own property in Colonial Beach, my wife and I, and we finally moved here because we love this area and we wanted to retire here. But then a captain called me, and because I called and complained about nothing in there that actually happened. And so she called me and she said she was gonna come in and have a talk sooner or later, and she was gonna look back into it. And so, a couple weeks later, I hadn't heard from her. So I texted, it was on a Sunday night, I said, I expect a call from you tomorrow, which would have been Monday. And I didn't hear anything. So I texted again, I said, well, I'm gonna go public if I, have no other recourse. So I said that I was gonna come to this meeting tonight, and I appreciate you listening to me, but I think I gave enough time to the department to iron this out and get it straight. But so far, I have not been satisfied at all because I was brutally thrown off of a porch. People saw it, and I was surprised that the person wasn't arrested that night. So that's what I had to say, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I hope everybody's doing well this evening.
Thank you. Will you leave your contact information with the clerk so that we can get back in touch with you and follow up on that?
Okay,
Phone number
Thank
and
you.
email.
Perfect. Appreciate it.
thank you.
She has it. Any other public comments tonight? Next up, unfinished business. We have two public hearings tonight. First is, they're both budget capitals. Yeah. First is the budget.
Madam Mayor, we already did the public hearing.
Oh my goodness.
Tonight is just council action on the budget.
I see it. I know that.
Okay, good evening. I'll read you into this.
Thank you.
Okay, so tonight we are asking for approval of the 2024 budget for the general fund, water and sewer fund, and approval of the school's budget. The resolution reads, gives the tax rates, which didn't change from 2023 to 2024. All tax rates are staying the same.
Can you say it again?
For 2024, there are no tax rate changes. They are the same tax rates from 2023.
Thank you.
Our proposed budget for 2024 for the general fund is 9.3 million. Included in that is 2.5 million going over to the school. Our sewer wastewater treatment plant is a budget of 2.5 million and the water fund 1.3 million.
Are the water or sewer rates changing?
The amount of the utility bill will not change. We are looking into the allocation of that money to water and sewer as costs for the sewer upkeep and the wastewater treatment plant are steadily rising. So we are looking into changing the allocation of the utility monies.
Okay, so the bill amount doesn't change, but some more of that money may go to sewer than water
Correct,
than it is now, but the amount of the bill does not change.
correct.
Thank you.
So we're asking tonight that the council approve the 2024 budget as it was presented to you. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those.
I think we've reviewed this several times now. I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? None? All right, I'll take a roll call vote. Dr. Sullivan?
Aye.
Mr. Moncur? Mr. Ellison?
Aye.
Mr. Woods?
Aye.
Ms. Williams?
Nay.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
And I vote aye. All right, moving forward. 2023 capital improvement program.
Again, here, take that. Again, we are asking for approval of the capital improvement plan for fiscal years 24 through 28. This was presented at the last meeting, I believe, for any questions and comments. So tonight, we're just asking that it be approved for the upcoming year.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second, I have a question.
Yes.
So anything that's in the capital improvement plan for the next, that's expected to be completed in the next year, we already have identified funds for?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, I'll do a roll call vote on this one. I think I started that side, so I'll start this side this time.
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Ms. Moncur?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, we don't have any new business on the agenda, so I'm gonna move to go into closed session and then we'll take a 10-minute bathroom break. Move that the town council of the town of Colonial Beach, Virginia convene in closed meeting for the following purpose and discuss the following subjects, all of which are exempt by Virginia law from public meeting requirements as indicated, namely pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A3 and 8, the discussion and consideration of acquisition of real property for a public purpose and disposition of publicly held real properties, including former town dump, Benson Street right-of-way, and others where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the town council in consultation with legal counsel regarding the specific legal matters related thereto respectively. There a motion?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, 10-minute recess at 7:30.
Okay.
Hold on, I need Vicky, I need everybody.
Oh, y'all want a W now, right?
There's no action.
He never came back.
There's no action.
He didn't. So I had to call us out.
Okay. What did I do with mine? There it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
It's kind of a longer.
Yeah. Is there a motion to reconvene an open meeting? Second. All in favor? Is there a motion to certify that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting were convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by council?
So moved.
Second,
All right,
I so certify.
there we go.
So certified.
So certified.
So certify.
I so certify. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 8:30 p.m.
Were you going for that number? That's fine. I did.
I get that to you. We've got to-